It's been a week, and we're back.
It's another week. You know what that means.
Well, welcome. This is the Dark Match. This is our 5th episode in season 2, where we came back from like our 2 and some years hiatus that we decided to take. I like how in that post where we decided we were gonna take a hiatus, she's like, well, we'll probably be back by Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble came and went. Another Royal Rumble came and went, and a third Royal Rumble came and went, and then we decided to come back. So yeah,
you know, there's actually interesting things here and there now, and there weren't for a long time.
We went on one thing we didn't talk about, we went on the Jericho cruise in 2020, the last one they actually had before it got shut down. I probably got the cruise crud, but maybe it was COVID, early COVID, who knows. But I was not doing too well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of numerous Jericho super spreader events.
So we went on that. That was pretty great. We went to 2 Royal Rumbles during that time. Was it just 2? Yeah. We went to Houston. We went to Phoenix. That was a lot of fun. We stayed with a crazy guy that lived in Grand Canyon, who's off the grid, so he's not going to hear this anyway. So yeah. That was a fun experience. But we still watched wrestling while we were gone, but just maybe not to the same fervor that we were watching it beforehand. Definitely not WWE to the same fervor, but at least it's WrestleMania season, so we got that going on, and we had Elimination Chamber this past weekend. What was your favorite of the weekend?
The favorite moment was Kevin Owens telling Sami Zayn to shut up and get in his pod so the match could get going. Outside of
I
that,
like that they had the microphones in the little pods, so you could really kind of hear what was going on, which was nice.
Yeah, I would say just biggest moment. Surprisingly, wasn't the Miz thing. It was the Drew McIntyre hitting the Claymore on AJ mid phenomenal forearm. Like, that was epic. Outside of that, I don't remember a whole lot. Like, I remember how each of the matches ended, but that's about it.
I will say, so I really enjoyed Cesaro and Daniel Bryan, especially those two going at it. Like that Elimination Chamber match was pretty good. I got a real good sense of the story that was happening, what everyone had to gain or to lose, what the point of having Jey Uso in there was to kind of essentially soften up and whoever was going to end up facing Roman. I liked that whole story. I liked everything about that, or at least most of it about it. Maybe it was a little bit of fatigue. I know it was a short pay-per-view, but it was a little bit of fatigue. I just didn't care for that second Elimination Chamber as much. There was definitely some cool moments, like you just mentioned. That Claymore was crazy, but it just didn't do anything for me. But maybe it's just because of we're just going to throw a bunch of former world title holders in the chamber with Drew McIntyre. But I don't know. I would have rather just seen him do a title defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think too. And I don't know if you had the same experience as I did. Going into an Elimination Chamber match that had both Jeff Hardy and Kofi in it, I expected it to just be like spot monkey galore. And I mean, the whisper in the wind off the top of the cage was, I mean, it looked like it hurt. But outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot of, in either match, there wasn't a whole lot of the crazy, the big spots like you're used to.
Yeah. I think it's also too, it's just like, there's not fans here, so why do go so crazy, really?
Yeah. Why die with nobody watching except these impersonal screens?
Especially if you're going to Mania and you're actually going to have fans there. Like, the last thing you want to do is injure yourself, and then the first time you guys have fans back, you can't even wrestle because you're sitting on the bench. So I think maybe there's maybe a little bit of that. Like, let's just hold it back and not do anything crazy. The same reason probably there wasn't any big surprises at the Rumble or anything like that. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, just like we were talking about the last podcast with Finn and Pete Dunne, I could have just watched, and I know they've apparently been wrestling on SmackDown anyway, Cesaro and Daniel Bryan, but I could have just watched those guys go at it on the mat for quite a while. And then, of course, they bring in King Corbin to throw some cold water on all that.
Yeah, because if
really
you're
getting a lot of mileage out of this King of the Ring winner thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna have this just amazing match filled with just talent galore, Cesaro and Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, yeah, you might as well throw Corbin in there because you force him on us in every other possible opportunity. Why not put him in this match?
I will say though, I really liked what I really liked was when Sammy and KO were both in, and I was texting you, was like, I wish they would just speak to each other in French. We would get the same idea what they were trying to do, but it was just like, we're trying to be extra sneaky by like speaking in French to try to team up, and then Cesaro would just be like, I know French too, you idiots, and like just takes them both down. That's my weird just fantasy booking. Maybe I was getting bored in that match too, but even though I did very much enjoy that match. What else? We had that women's tag title thing. What's the deal with Reginald?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I found it a little weird that they had a tag match last week on SmackDown where Reginald teamed up with Sasha Banks. I think it may have been Bianca. I know it was Reginald was in the match and he got slammed by Nia. Even after years and years of the we will not do intergender stuff, suddenly Reginald is in a match with 3 women.
Yeah.
That was a little odd for me. I don't get the point. I don't know if he's supposed to like get on Sasha's good side so that Carmella can get another chance. I don't know what they're doing with that. And it's one of those, it's not compelling enough that they really should be stringing it out like they are. So they need to shit or get off the pot with that one.
I just want to know, is this a weird Vince idea? Like, it's like, we're gonna have a sommelier and they're gonna like entice the women with wine pairings at the end of if they win their matches. I'm like, what is this? And is his accent legit, or is it a weird? It kind of sounds like a weird Jamaican, but then also trying to do French. Where's this guy from?
It's got early Kofi vibes. It certainly does. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Vince. Honestly, I think he didn't mean for it to be sommelier. He probably said, "I want him to be from Somalia."
do the "I'm the captain now" bit.
Yeah, he watched Captain Phillips and went into a fever dream, and Reginald was born.
And he was like, "Wine? Well, whatever, just do it." I don't know. So, I mean, they won, or the champs retained Nia and Shayna Baszler. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't remember anything from it, honestly, besides Reginald being there. It's
not like you were gonna put tag team titles on the 2 most likely competitors for WrestleMania. I mean, you don't need to do a whole lot of build to get people excited for Bianca versus Sasha. You don't have to give them a belt. I mean, basically, if they would have done that, they would have gone this Charlotte Asuka route that they're going, that is taking way too long and involved a whole lot of just utter nonsense, with Ric Flair potentially being a baby daddy. And let's just end that now. But yeah, nobody expected that, or at least I would hope that nobody expected Bianca and Sasha to walk away with those tag titles.
Yeah, it's and speaking of which, this is the second time Asuka has entered a feud with someone and they ended up pregnant. And the feud is now over. Or I don't know what they're doing with it, but I guess they don't know what they're doing with it, and I guess they're trying to figure it out. But it was for the best because it was terrible story, and Asuka's much better than that. Charlotte's much better than being part of something like that.
She's earned the right to have better creative. That's for damn sure. Last night it sort of seemed like they kind of snipped the end off this thing. They had a back and forth with Charlotte and Ric Flair, and I think we've kind of like closed this one off. So hopefully we can just move into, Asuka being pissed that they keep losing matches, and then Charlotte versus Asuka, which is, honestly, if I were fantasy booking WrestleMania anyways, I mean, it plays back to what, 2-3 years ago when Charlotte broke Asuka's streak at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's the ideal match for Asuka as champion. So
yeah. Which it's hard to it's easy to forget that she is champion because they don't have her.
That's not the belt that she ever defends. So
yeah. Yeah, and so you brought up an interesting point earlier today. It's just like, you asked me if I even knew who the tag champions were on either brand, and you mentioned something about the Street Profits, so I was just like, the Street Profits, and I was wrong there. So
the Street Profits were until a few weeks ago. Well, actually, no. According to this, the Hurt Business took the Street Profits title. No, they moved to SmackDown. So the Hurt Business beat New Day at TLC in December. So the Hurt Business has been the tag champs for 2 months, and I had no idea. They're never. It's Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They're never on television. It's always MVP and Bobby Lashley. Like, where are these other two guys that hold titles? I have no idea. And the Street Profits, January 8th, so over a month ago, the Street Profits lost their belts to the random tandem of Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, because when you don't have any creative for the show-off, just pair him up with somebody that's standing around and give him the tag belt.
I wonder how his brother's going to fare on AEW. Like, now that he's in a different company, and is he going to fare any better? I feel like he's going to be a lower mid-carder at AEW. Nothing real special.
I don't imagine he's going to get, like, he was on, 2 weeks ago, he was on Dynamite, but I would imagine he's going to be one of those guys. You see him a lot on Dark. I don't imagine he's going to, he could go on like a 10-match winning streak on Dark, and he's still not going to be on Dynamite much. But I could be wrong. I mean, he could be. Well, I would imagine if he had half the charisma that Ziggler has, that he'd still be in the other company. But who knows?
Well, so speaking of that, so when we went to Royal Rumble, you had bought tickets to Dolph Ziggler's comedy show, which you didn't look at the date when you bought them, and didn't realize you'd be on a plane back to Atlanta at that time. But Elsa and I went instead, and to be honest, like, I forget that there's one comedian that was before Dolph that she was fantastic, but for the wrestlers and stuff like that, he was the best. Not Dolph, definitely not Dolph, but Ryan, his brother, was so much better. And he was just doing this weird character. It was more of like a sketch, really, that he did, but it was entertaining and fun. And he didn't overstay his welcome. He just didn't read his jokes off of paper for 45 minutes like Dolph did. It was pretty bad. I don't recommend it. I mean, people seem to have a good time, and I guess that's all that really matters. And it was just after a Royal Rumble, so yeah, people probably had some things to drink and what have you, and just kind of high off of that experience of being there. At a big show like that, there was
a 2-drink minimum in addition to the ticket price, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think 2-drink minimum. I think it was 2-drink minimum and a food item. Like,
oh wow!
I think it was more crazy. It wasn't a 2-item minimum. I think you had to get 2 drinks, whether it was alcoholic or not, because they charge you like $5 for a Coke or something as well. So, So yeah, no, it was pretty crazy. I can't recommend the comedy show, but Ryan at least does have some charisma that I don't feel like he's really shown on AEW so far. Maybe that changes. Again, I don't really watch Dark because I get overwhelmed because I look at the thing on Twitter. It says 16 matches on Dark, and I know some of them are squash matches, and I could just turn it on for like 10 minutes or whatever, and then just be done with it. Just watch it until I'm not. Except for now it's our podcast recording time is when Dark comes on, but it's just that's just overwhelming to me. I don't even think there's anywhere near 16 matches on Raw, and maybe there should be. But how long is that show? Do you ever look at it?
I don't. I keep I'll watch at the bottom on Dynamite when it rolls through.
Yeah.
Oh shit! At the bottom.
Oh, hold on a second. There was a weird thing. Just a moment. I just paused it for a second for some reason, so I cut off your thought there. So just rewind that back about watching Dark.
Yeah, I don't watch Dark. I'm with you. It's overload at this point. I think if they had another hour or so that was on TV that I could just turn on in the background while I'm doing work, maybe.
Yeah.
But 16 matches is a lot to focus on. But I'll watch the tracker during Dynamite, mostly just to keep up with, I think Sean Spears is like 111-2 in in AEW, but he's only ever on Dark. So,
oh man, yeah. Of those 16 matches, there's actually 8 of those are Sean Spears matches.
He just squashes everybody.
But can't get on Dynamite. Is Tully Blanchard still his manager, or did the FTR guys just come in and be like, I'm just going to go over here now?
I'm not entirely sure. I would imagine so, but I kind of thought that he was part of some sort of horseman that they were building, and then they moved away from that real quick. So I don't know. But he definitely gets a lot of wins on Dark, according to the tracker.
Well, welcome to the Dark match where we don't actually know about a lot of things and we just speculate on it. So here we go. But I guess we should jump back to Elimination Chamber. So you also texted me when Elimination Chamber, when you were watching it, and you mentioned it's probably you're the best Bobby Lashley match that you've seen, and I have to agree. Like, Bobby Lashley does nothing for me, but they told a good story. The three of those guys they made it seem important. That match.
I'm with you. I don't care about Bobby Lashley, and especially now. I don't know how you lose the United States title and the next night you're the number one contender for the WWE Championship. But all that aside, I think that they've made logical use of a lot of Matt Riddle's strengths, which kept the feud with Bobby Lashley and MVP entertaining. Because he's a goofy stoned kid, so like they just played with that. And then I wasn't terribly thrilled about having to substitute Keith Lee out. They still didn't really explain why he wasn't on the show. I'm hoping it's just some sort of minor nagging injury. But the kickoff match, the Fatal 4-Way was pretty good. And then obviously we ended up with John Morrison in the Keith Lee spot, and Morrison and Riddle. They were good in the ring together. They had another match on Raw last night that was pretty good too. I obviously if Keith Lee's not going to be there, you'd kind of like to see another one of these up and coming guys sort of get plunked into that spot. Wouldn't have minded like a Damian Priest. Hell, let Ricochet win that Fatal 4-Way just so that people feel like you're going to do something with him eventually. As opposed to getting him choke slammed by Omos from 82 feet off the ground. Like that was, I mean, he may have killed him. I don't know. Ricochet may not even be around anymore. But yeah, I don't find Bobby Lashley entertaining. I understand why he got pushed continues to get pushed, even though he left the company and came back. Like, he is the prototype. If Vince McMahon had to build from the ground up what a champion would look like, I mean, probably aside from skin color, let's be real, because there's not a whole lot of WWE champions that have been of a darker complexion.
Unless you're Samoan.
Yeah.
This is about as dark as he likes to go.
But I mean, he's that guy that Vince is going to push. And having some MMA background adds to his credibility a bit. I think it's that he cuts a boring ass promo. Brock Lesnar never had to cut a promo. If he did, he just grabbed a mic and said "Suplex City, bitch," and then he walked the hell off, or he suplexed. Like I needed the monster. It's like when Strowman started talking. I don't need you to talk. I need you to walk up, tell somebody they're going to get the hands, and then give them the damn hands. Like, you are a monster. I don't need you to speak at length like Bobby Lashley does all the time.
Brock Lesnar's promos are basically the extent of it are Scary Terry from Rick and Morty.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
That's about it. Was there another match?
Let's see. Triple threat. Matt Riddle is your new United States champion.
Was there a singles match in there somewhere? Oh, it was the Roman match. I think it's probably the only singles match, true singles match.
Which I gotta give them a ton of credit. When the SmackDown Chamber match started the show, I thought, okay, they're gonna let Daniel Bryan rest, because I just assumed it was gonna be Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
They weren't going to, well, I at least assumed they weren't going to jump right back into a Kevin Owens match. But I thought they're going to let him rest. They're going to put on a decent show, but they're going to play up the fatigue as the reason why Daniel Bryan lost, so that he can get a rematch later. No, hell no. He won that match and Roman's music started. Like, that was a boss head of the table ass move right there. And like, he just walked down there. I mean, I got to give him credit. He got the submission hold locked in on that first move, but then it was just real quick. He whooped his ass and was just done for the night. I
thought that was an excellent piece of storytelling. Yeah. Not come back at the end of the show. It was like, no, let's do this right now.
Yeah,
he really plays into the character.
He is not worried about main eventing shit. He just he's going to go out there. He's going to win his contractual obligation, and then he's going hell home. I loved it. Which
I think it was on Talking Smack paraphrase. I think Bryan said something like, to Paul Heyman, which was like, is it before or after you start managing people that they stop liking to wrestle? So,
well, and then I guess the big thing coming out of that match was Roman wins, defends the title, and immediately gets speared by Edge. Because let's not wait and see who wins the match later in the night. We've got to just go ahead and shoot that whole "I haven't made my decision yet" thing in the ass. 40 minutes into this pay-per-view. Yeah.
Well, hey, at least we're down to just Bianca now that hasn't picked someone. So I hope that they don't do that like 10 minutes before Mania starts. It's like, I chose my... Or on night one, because it's on 2 nights. She's like, I'm going to defend tomorrow. And then she finally makes her pick. Please no. What do you think of Young Rock?
I thought it has potential. There were some hit and miss moments on it, but I think once it gets its legs, NBC's already touting it as their best comedy debut in 4 years, per The Rock's Facebook post today. I feel like they say that about every damn show that starts on NBC. It's our greatest debut, since Friends. But I think once it gets its legs and like it establishes everything it wants to do, I think it's got potential.
Yeah. I agree. I think the weirdest thing for me was the banter between the interviewer. His name escapes me right now, and I don't want to look it up. But yeah, he's from The Interview, and he's fresh off the boat, and that Always Be My Maybe on Netflix, which was really good. It's just the banter between him and The Rock was just really flat, and I don't know if that was just a writing thing or just that those two just don't have great chemistry. But
I almost wondered if they weren't in the same room. Like I thought maybe it got added later and they had to film it during Corona, and maybe they weren't in the room together, and that's why it felt a little weird.
So there's this like comedy special like roast thing on that they did to like make fun of 2020, and there's a lot of like Natasha Leggero and Tiffany Haddish and a bunch of people. The lady that plays Marvelous is Mrs. Maisel, just because I guess it was on Amazon. Who she had a funny bit, but it's like the whole thing was like they're at a funeral home and they're roasting or saying goodbye to things in 2020. And at the end of it, they actually show a breakdown, and it's just like none of them were all there at the same time. There was always just one person. And they just did a crazy like replacement and green screen stuff, but they made it feel like it was real. But I think it must be something. It did feel a little off, but I think I think you're onto something. I think that maybe they weren't in the same room, but I think that's the part that felt the weakest to me. I thought I think all the different ages felt pretty good to me. Apparently, some wrestling journalists were like, or just really one, Dave Meltzer is getting all bent out of shape. It's just like, oh, the Iron Sheik and Andre the Giant wouldn't have been in Hawaii at the same time. It's like, come on, man. It doesn't matter.
No,
let it go.
He can have some creative license with his own backstory. I mean, because let's be real, they're not going to get to the point where he's slinging dope to keep the rent paid. Like it doesn't play into he's running for president now kind of thing. And maybe they will. Which I think it would lend a hell of a lot of credibility to the show itself, but who knows? They could decide that it's bad for his image, even though he has never shied away from telling the story. So
the interesting thing is, I was reading an article and they were saying this might actually be the show might be a weird test run for him actually running for president. Like I don't know, 4, 8. 12 years from now, or I think it's 2032 in the show.
That's probably when all of his current contractual obligations would expire. I think in 2030 he might get around to the Big Trouble in Little China remake. So by 2032, when the press for that ends, he could potentially make a run.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It was an interesting show, and it has potential if they just work out the kinks. But it's also a pilot too, so who knows? But it did have like a little bit of that Malcolm in the Middle feel, a little bit of that Everybody Hates Chris like type of show feel. And if they can kind of really lean into that, I think it'll be work out.
And I think the lead that's playing High School Rock, I think that he's kind of one of the strongest parts of the show. And I think the more he's on screen, he's got a weird chemistry to him that I think it's gonna resonate, and the show's gonna do pretty well on the back of it.
Yeah. And I like the relationship with his father. I think there's a lot to mine there, and you know, he was definitely kind of in the wrestling sense carny and stuff like that. I think it's really, that's a lot you can work with there, both good and bad. So we want a fantasy book.
Yeah,
is that what we want to do now?
You know, I figured, you know, we're on the road to WrestleMania, and you know, we've got a few weeks, and things are always subject to change. But I figured over the next couple of podcasts, I'll throw out a couple of the current champions, because I think if you're doing a 2-night WrestleMania, every belt in the company should be defended. Just as a way to like really hammer home that this is the showcase of, you know, these are what we have told you are the best. Watch them perform. So I figured I would just throw you a couple of champions, and you can pick any brand, any current roster member. That's the one thing that I'm going to limit it to. Don't
Okay.
don't fantasy book part-timers. Like, yes, I would love to see Big E get booked to wrestle Hulk Hogan for the Intercontinental belt just to see Big E like shoot on him. But but we'll limit it. And I'm gonna wait to throw you the Miz until next week because I got a sneaking suspicion that Bobby Lashley's walking out of Raw with his belt next week. I think, and Bad Bunny's going to cause it. So we'll just we'll jump down. Let's see who we've got. I'll pick one from each show for you. If you had to book a WrestleMania match for Matt Riddle,
and maybe just because he was taken off that triple threat, but I mean, I want to see Keith Lee back. I want to see Keith Lee go at it. I feel like I've seen them on some indie show wrestle each other. I know that would be good. So I would like to see that. I want to see Keith Lee do a lot. So yeah.
I do too. And I think the most interesting part there is which one of them between now and WrestleMania would they heel turn? Because I don't know if you could make Matt Riddle work as he heel, but I also am incredibly interested to see it.
Yeah, I would like to see them try to do it. I think they could do it in a weird way. I think he has potential in the way where CM Punk would ride the straight edge thing as a good guy, and then he would turn around at the moment they need to be a bad guy. He would essentially be the same character, but then just I'm straight edge and now I'm a bad guy. Like there was a certain way he did about, and I think Matt Riddle could do the same thing as being a pothead somehow. It would be an interesting idea. I'd like to see it. Keith Lee, I just want to see him, babyface all the way.
Yeah, I see big things for Keith Lee. If as long as the rumors aren't true and Vince doesn't really see it, I don't know how he couldn't. I've watched this 360-pound man throw his body over the top rope onto just 110-pound guy who could not catch him at all next door to a quinceañera in Marietta. Like, he could have died. There was no pad on the floor. He just went for it. So I don't know how you can't see what he brings to the table, but I'm with you. I think if I was booking for Matt Riddle, it would probably be Keith Lee. Only alternate I can think of that's on the Raw roster is that I just want to find some sort of showcase for Ricochet, and I think they could probably do something pretty stellar. Although I wouldn't mind seeing him wrestle John. It's kind of like Cesaro and Daniel Bryan. I wouldn't mind seeing Riddle wrestle John Morrison a couple more times because they've got great in-ring chemistry.
Yeah, Morrison's great. I think just maybe because he's in line with Miz and stuff, and that doesn't do him a lot of favors. He's not a great promo and all that, but he's pretty damn good in the ring. So,
all right, we know who Roman's facing. Sasha's most likely Bianca. Let's do tag belts, since I feel like the tag teams get heavily neglected. Who would you book? I mean, at this point, you've got two. I would say Dolph Ziggler at the very least, surefire Hall of Famer. Robert Roode hadn't been around WWE long enough that he's going to get in there. I mean, Christian still isn't. So
no.
Like, who would you book for these two? A legend and a maybe legend to face at WrestleMania.
And then the question is, they have to be a tag team, right? Like, because they don't have a lot of tag teams because they don't like tag teams.
Yeah, and that's the other reason that I sent you that message earlier, because I was thinking about the same thing. Like, you had women's tag teams. I mean, you had the Iconics, but instead you broke them up, and now you have paired Nia and Shayna, who don't need partners. Shayna, sure as shit, does not need a partner. Charlotte and Asuka do not need each other. They can shine on their own. It's the same thing with the men. If you think at all the good tag teams that they had, I mean, they had the potential to hark back to Hardy's, Edge and Christian, Dudley's. I mean, the heyday of tag teams in WWE back then, we had the Good Brothers, the Revival. I mean, they had tons of tag teams that they have now split up for inexplicable reasons, or they let them go during COVID.
Yeah.
They didn't release any of the singles wrestlers. They just cut all of the tag teams.
Yeah.
So I guess either way, I would like to see them settle in on tag teams. And I'm gonna fantasy book this one a little bit when you're done. But who would you put in the ring with them?
Man, so is one of the Usos injured? Is that why there's only Jay around?
I think so. I think that's why they brought him back at Hell in a Cell, so that he could be on screen but not really do much.
Yeah.
Because he basically just flopped, and then Jay laid down on top of him to keep him from getting killed. But
I don't know the complete intricacies of the story, but like, they're still brothers, and you can bring honor to the Samoan family, I guess, by taking it off of Ziggler and Rude, I guess. Like that's my only thought, and I'm just like, I'm stretching to think of a tag team. I don't want to put two people together. The only other ones I can think of are the which I feel like at least one of them's injured as well, is the Viking Raiders, or did they release one of them? I can't remember. Did they release them?
I think they're still employed. I think that the smaller one left when Sarah Logan had a baby, maybe.
Oh, because they let her go.
Yeah,
but they didn't let him go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I think actually I'm going to save the Raiders. But yeah, if we're talking about current people, then the Usos, and we're just going to forget that maybe one of them is injured.
Okay.
So
I mean, I'm all right with it.
Because it'll be a good match at least.
Yeah, let's bring all the gold to the table.
Yeah.
At least it kind of has a story.
Yeah.
I want DIY. I don't care what kind of story has to play out to get them not only back together, but on the main roster as a tag team back together. I want DIY at WrestleMania.
Oh, okay. Well, so if you want to, and maybe I forgot NXT, but hell, let's just go ahead and do MSK versus Rude and Ziggler. I feel like that'd be a pretty good match. They used to use Ziggler all the time to like break in the new talent on the main roster. So yeah, like that's my secondary option. If we're gonna do who's actually injured, and the Usos couldn't do it because of that, then I'll say MSK.
Yeah, I mean, there's the one thing I can say about I can say a lot about NXT, but the one thing I can absolutely say is they have never forgotten that tag team wrestling is an amazing, amazing thing to watch.
Yeah,
because I mean, you could bring in, honor some loyalty here. Let's have Breezango get a SmackDown tag title shot. Like,
yeah.
As much time and the golden years of Fandango have been given to WWE, just like Ziggler's. So
yeah,
it's not like they haven't held that belt before. So
yeah,
hell, I'm good with that.
And I mean, I really wish we could get. I mean, AEW is really trying with the tag teams over there, like to give us kind of the glory days of that. And I know it's a risk because if one of them gets injured, that's two people on the shelf. But at the same time, like my two most favorite matches I've seen in person have been when I was with you in Toronto, the DIY versus it was a 2 out of 3 falls 2 out of 3 falls DIY versus, what were they called? The Revival. Yes. That was one of my favorites. And then my second favorite was the Young Bucks versus the Golden Lovers in Long Beach over here, and that was an incredible match. So yeah, I'd love to see more of it, and WWE doesn't want to give it to us.
As uninteresting as the authors of Pain were, and I think they're still employed, so maybe we can get them in one of these tag matches at some point.
Oh no, they were gone. They're gone.
Oh, they're gone. Okay. Well, even as uninteresting as they were, just as performers, the DIY AOP match is probably one of my favorites. Like, they killed it.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm fantasy booking DIY, getting back together, getting the band back together.
And then so we got the Hurt Business then, right?
That would be the Raw belts. We'll save that one. I'll see if they actually put them on TV next week. Because let's be real, if there's a WrestleMania tag match for the Raw tag titles, it's the New Day. Like they've just got to put them on the card somewhere.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but I mean, you've got to get them on the card. They're amongst your most entertaining people.
Yeah.
It's
going to be on Peacock too. You got to draw the people in.
Let's jump down. I'll give you a weird one.
Yeah.
Cruiserweight title.
Cruiserweight.
Do you know who the current Cruiserweight champion is?
Angel Garza. I don't know. Is that right?
No, it is Santos Escobar, also known as El Hijo del Fantasma.
Oh, okay. So actually, is Angel Garza even a cruiserweight?
Yeah, I think he was in 205 Live for a little while. Interestingly enough, I don't know if it's technically this way on the WWE site, but the Wikipedia site still holds Jordan Devlin as one half of the Cruiserweight champion, because he technically never lost it. I don't think he's employed anymore. He got Me Too'd, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know why he's still listed, but
well, so I got an easy one for this one, just because I love him. I think he's great. I used to see him here in LA all the time. Jake Atlas, put him in there. He'll do an amazing job. I know it. I'm
good with that. I like that. He's not on TV enough, so I oftentimes forget that he's, an option. Yeah, that one works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, shit. At this point, just give it to Bad Bunny. Let's have Bad Bunny hold all the belts. Or, well, no, he's probably too big. I was gonna say. So, at this point, since you can't have R-Truth involved in this whole Miz and Morrison, Damian Priest, Bad Bunny thing, let's give R-Truth some kind of title when we go through some of the other ones at some point. But honestly,
did you see Bad Bunny was for one of his Saturday Night Live performances was clutching the 24/7 championship while he was performing?
Yeah, I saw it quickly. I'm not a huge. And this isn't just Bad Bunny. I skipped the majority of musical performers on the Saturday Night Live just because most of them are crap. So I skipped him, but I did notice as I was fast forwarding on Hulu in the little thumbnails that he had the belt. I'm actually a little ashamed that I don't know who to give a cruiserweight chance to. I mean, I was a massive supporter of 205 Live, and then it got, kind of tossed to the wayside. I think it still comes on, but that would require that I turn on the network for something other than pay-per-views.
I thought it just got went away.
Well, I know they defend it more often than not on NXT.
Yeah.
So maybe it did go away. In that case, I'm going to give Buddy Murphy a title shot, since they just kind of shit the bed on his creepy romance, and they have abandoned the Aaliyah Mysterio Buddy Murphy love storyline. So I'm going to give Buddy Murphy a chance to go back to the 205 roots. He'd probably have to shed some weight again, but yeah, I still I don't want to do anything that involves retribution because they're going to screw it up no matter what they do. So I'll give the
Yeah.
other half of my favorite match of last year, his due. Oh no, that may have been 2 years ago. Shit. I don't even remember. That would have been 2 years ago. Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali in that no DQ match. The Spanish fly off the railing through the announce table. That was just nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give it to Buddy Murphy.
Nice.
But
yeah,
I think we'll cut them. We'll do 3 for now, and then we'll kind of. I'll see how the SmackDown and Raw shake up, and we'll do a couple more next week.
Last thing that's happening this week, I almost forgot about this. Friday on New Japan Strong, Kenta challenges Jon Moxley for the IWGP US Championship. How do you think that's going to go?
Oh, Kenta. Moxley's got to drop the belt. Because I don't know how many more New Japan shows there will be between now and the end of his paternity tour. So, which if he doesn't quit scheduling Bloodsport matches, he may not survive.
Well, and the exploding barbed wire death match that he's going to have with Kenny Omega that you might be in person for.
Maybe they've taken Revolution's not even listed on the AEW ticket site anymore. So I don't know when or if it goes on sale. They may just be giving those tickets to first responders like the NFL did, which I'm okay. They may need a bunch of first responders there for that exploding barbed wire death match. Who knows? It's not a bad way to plan around that.
I actually think that Moxley's going to defend because I think New Japan has put a lot of effort into Moxley, and I think the fans in Japan especially really like him, and I think they want to keep this relationship with AEW and the like open, and I think they might actually have Moxley retain, and if he doesn't retain, I think the door is still definitely going to be wide open. There's going to be some other reason. Maybe Archer shows up to challenge after Kenta wins too. Maybe that's an option. But I do think they're going to have. But you could be right on the fact that he might disappear for a while for paternity stuff after the death match, which also might mean that that he's losing that death match to Kenny as well. So
yeah, I mean that's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. There's no way Kenny's dropping that belt this quickly. But the other thing that I thought was I kind of thought that maybe they went with Kenta because people might recognize him. Because he was not for very long, but he did WWE for a bit. I would feel a lot more confident outside of the paternity stuff if it was somebody that an American audience might latch on to more. But I'm struggling to think of anybody that's in New Japan that they could have put there against Mox. I mean, is Ospreay?
Yeah, but he's actually the other interesting thing is because of COVID, Ospreay's in Japan, so he's living and working in Japan. So that's the other. Kenta's over here, so that's the other thing. Like he's on that New Japan Strong show, which is like a bunch of pretty much indie guys and some guys that were from like Ring of Honor stuff, like Brody King and some people like that. But yeah, not too many.
Is Jeff Cobb
actual Japanese? He shows up there occasionally, yeah.
Because I feel like at least with him having been on AEW before, there could have been some, some connection that maybe English audiences might have latched onto.
Yeah.
Now you got to find the Roku channel to watch this stuff. But
Well, New Japan Strong is still a New Japan World show, so you do have to subscribe to their network and not do the Roku thing. So I'll actually do that. Even though it's going to charge me like I have to cancel immediately, so it doesn't charge me again at the first of the month, because that's when they always go live. But yeah, I'll be watching this Friday, so I'll report back next Tuesday how it went and what it might mean. But other than that, I think we'll see you guys next week.
All right, sounds good. See you next week. Oh, if you like what you hear, subscribe. I'm not going to make a plug for My Pillow Money this time. That guy is in a shitstorm, and I don't want to be like, as much as I would love to take his money, if it becomes part of that $1.3 billion settlement, like they'll just come take it back from me. So it's not worth it right now.
Yeah, you're not getting any money.